I, I didn't have a secret briefing yet. We'll get one this week. So what I'm repeating is a lot of it's what I've also read through media, but also my experience being in the theater. I've spent nearly 3 decades with a lot of deployments in the Middle East. But what I'm reading is that there was 14 ballistic missiles fired out of Iran towards U.S. facilities. 13 were intercepted. So I'm very grateful about missile defense. We need it because we used to be very vulnerable to these things. And 14th one hit in an open area where very little damage was done. I think as you study why was it a small response and the fact that Iran warned Qatar and others that they were going to do this attack, I think are trying to do a safe phasing or a face-saving measure and keeping their response small. So I think that's probably what we're seeing here is doing just enough to save face. I would also point out, though, that after a week and a half of Israel, I think a lot of their capabilities are depleted as well. So I think that they're having to manage their resources very carefully after launching hundreds and hundreds of ballistic missiles at Israel already. And also the fact that Israel's taken a toll on them, targeting them for this last week and a half, has also attrited some of their capabilities. So I think you're seeing a combination of not wanting to cross the line with President Trump with this response, so keeping it very small with the warnings, but also I think it's a reflection that their capabilities have been weaned down quite a bit. My experience has been, and I've been a student of war since I was 18. I've studied in college and did my 3 decades in the Air Force. I think we tend to over exaggerate an adversary's capabilities, but we tend to underestimate their intentions. And I think that this is valid here. I think that the Iranians, their capabilities have been attrited, but I would not underestimate their intentions. They have killed over 900 Americans since 1979. Some people that I knew personally, 244 in Beirut at the Beirut barracks bombings. There was 19 at the Khobar Towers, where I posted this on our Twitter, my Twitter today, or X. Tim Hahn, who I used to fly with, was in the Khobar Towers and killed when that bomb went off. We also lost 609 Americans in Iraq. They've also attempted to do assassinations before in the United States, and they have succeeded at times in Europe. So my point being is we shouldn't underestimate their intentions. A blatant missile attack hitting our bases in Al Udeid would have left them very vulnerable to a U.S. counterattack. I would anticipate them trying to use more subterfuge, terrorism, proxy forces, where they can try to deny direct involvement. And so I think that risk is still alive and well. Today I read that just under 800 Iranians crossed over our border illegally under the Biden administration and were released here. So it is plausible that we could have a terrorism threat here. And I would anticipate if Iran's going to strike back, it's going to be using those kinds of means. So that's the main thing I wanted to point out on this attack today. Let me back up on when U.S. hit the 3 nuclear facilities in Iran. I supported that endeavor. It is clear to me that a nuclear-armed Iran is a threat to America and to our allies. For one, Iran is I think you can't really anticipate what they'll do with the nuclear weapon. With other countries, you can deter them. The deterrence works. But if you ever listen to some of the writings and the speeches of the leadership of Iran, a lot of times they glorify in bringing along the apocalypse. You can hear this is what Khamenei talks about. And the fact that he has sworn to destroy Israel, and you see the other actions they've done. I think an Iran with a nuclear weapon is really too much of a threat for us to discount, that we had to take action. And so I think the president did right by defending our country. It was a one-night strike. I don't think he wants to do this again unless there's evidence that these strikes were not effective, and then maybe you'll have to reconsider. But I know he doesn't want to have a prolonged fight with Iran there. And I would point out that some of my Democrat colleagues, and some of them which support the president's decision, I want to point that out. Some of my close friends across the aisle do support it. But there's been a lot of very vocal opponents to what he did, even talking about impeachment. And I think that's a mistake. This is not the time to have partisan politics here dealing with Iran and a nuclear weapon. This is the time to congratulate the president on a job well done. And you all know as well as anybody, I've been critical on the president. I'm an equal opportunity critic here, but I think in this case, what he did was needed. And to hear some of my colleagues talk about impeachment, I think it's just plain wrong. We can't forget that President Obama did the operations in Libya without a AUMF. President Clinton did operations in the Balkans without an AUMF. And this appears to be a one-strike night and well within its Article 2 Commander-in-Chief responsibilities. And I think it's well within the War Powers Act. If we're doing sustained operations, by law, he has to come and get support from Congress.